activity versus inner communion. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Last week, we contemplated the well-known story of Martha and Mary. Traditionally, this story has been offered to show the two classic approaches to salvation. The first through action, and the second through prayer. The excuse of the Marthas of this world has always been, the Church needs its Marthas too. Treatises, moreover, have been written to justify the Martha's approach to pity, praising her self-sacrifice as perhaps an even higher demonstration of devotion. Thus, do the unmeditative workers in religion try to justify themselves. Yet, the fact remains that Jesus rebuked Martha. Elsewhere, moreover, he spoke of the virtue of feeding the hungry, curing the sick, and housing those who were homeless. It wasn't that he disapproved of serving people. Wrong attitude was the object of his criticism. What he was criticizing was forgetfulness of the true goal of right spiritual action. Good deeds, outwardly without inner communion with God, will result in good karma, but will not bring final freedom from all karma. The path to inner freedom was described by Paramahansa Yogananda in these words: be always calmly active and actively calm. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, he who is not shaken by anxiety during times of sorrow, nor elated during times of happiness, who is free from egoic desires and their attendant fear and anger, such an one is a steady discrimination. Do your duty in life. So counsels this great scripture elsewhere, but never lose sight of him to whom all actions should be dedicated. Thus, through holy scriptures, God has spoken to mankind. Whilst this rain was coming down from the sky, I thought about a movie that Swami preferred. It's Bambi of Walt Disney. We have seen this movie so many times with him, and the scene when the small Bambi is under a tree and all this rain is falling on the tree, and you can hear the sound of the rain. I thought of these special moments when we were together with Swami, watching one of those films that we had seen so many times. Because being close to Swami, there was always some novelty, a new joy happening. And this movie was the story of this little one that is born and the mom dies, is killed, and he becomes a great king. And it's the story of all our souls. And he would tell us this. Swami would remember this to us. So we were watching the scenes, but you could feel this aura of love and lightness that was cleaning the minds, and we were enjoying the movie as if it was our own life. I remember the first time I met Swami. It was in 1989. When I found him, the first thing that he did was he hold my hand and he said, "Welcome." He didn't ask me what my name was. I don't know if he knew my name, but he told me a story, a beautiful story. He said, some days ago I was writing a book. He was really very active in service, as this reading is today. And Swami said, I saw that the window in front of my desk was dirty, and so I cleaned it, and I came back and sat down and continued writing. And then I calmed myself and I said, "Why is this window beautiful?" And he said, "Because you can't see it." This is where we have to arrive. We have to be totally transparent. And it's just then that God will be able to come through and come towards us, in and out. This is the sense of our life. At that point, I understood that I would have never been the same and that my life wouldn't have been the same. I had a fear of changing everything in my life, and from the other hand, I had the question, why did I come to this world? There must be a reason. And this was a question that I had already asked, and I had understood a bit when I had read the autobiography. When I met Swami, I understood this is a person that knows the answer. So I started crying. I got into my car and I just ran away. I just went home. I had arrived the night before and I left to Venice. And I just cried in this trip, all the tears, because it was 4 hours of a trip where I just started crying and I arrived crying to my house. And I continued crying, and there was something that was moving in my soul. When I stopped crying, I said, what did you do? You left. I got into the car and I came back to Ananda. Immediately. In less than 24 hours, I had done 4 times the trip, and it was absolutely... And Swami said, I didn't see you anymore. Where were you? And I said, I just had a trip and I just came back. And he said, I'm happy to see you again. The life of a man like him, such an important man, in his simpleness, you could not see the greatness, but there was all that greatness. 100%, even in the challenges of life, there was such a greatness that we cannot even imagine. I will tell you a story that you already know about it. Swami at one point would suffer of many, the body would suffer. He was always happy and always in joy and ready to share the teachings of Yogananda. But his body had a trial vibration, I don't know how to call it, in the heart. And this was very disturbing for him. And a doctor visited him and said, we could try to converse this movement of the heart, this beat, arrhythmia. And they went to the hospital. They did a treatment on him. And the heart started beating normally. Because when you have this problem, when you go in deep in meditation, if the heart beats in a wrong way, it creates a flux of the blood, and this was very disturbing. So we tried, and the doctor was very, very good, and he came out and said, yes, that's right. The heart is working well now. And so he came back home, and after a week or 10 days, the heart went back again into the same malfunction. And we called the doctor, and he said, Mr. Walter, we can try once more, but not more, because after 2 times, this electric shock that we put on your heart could be too heavy for you. So we went there to the hospital, and he went into the operating room, and they gave him some anesthesia, and they did this operation again, and he was asleep. And after half an hour, the doctor came in, and he said, the Swami asked, "How was it? Did it work?" And the doctor said, "No, Mr. Walter, I tried 3-4 times, but I couldn't. You will have to live with this situation your whole life." And in that moment, Swami didn't say anything. He just closed his eyes and offered God a different life and accepted 100% the answer of the doctor. And then he looked at me, he said to the doctor, it's okay, Dr. Ascani, I'm sure you have done everything you could. Thank you very much for trying. There were no words. In that moment, he knew he couldn't meditate deeply anymore, and he just accepted it. If this was what God wanted, that was fine. And he always offered everything that happened to him, everything that he received, the beautiful and the less beautiful things. I don't think he had never received something ugly, because we make it become ugly in our mind. When he got dressed to leave, there was next to him in another bed another man that was sick and had and so Swami went to say goodbye to him, and he held his hand and he said, "I'm leaving." And he did not answer. He just said, I pray a lot and I love God. This man said that to Swami, and Swami said, "I also pray and I love God." And there was this exchange, this beautiful exchange between them, between this man that probably left his body. In any case, he was touched by Swami. 2 months ago, I went to the doctor, Ascani doctor, the same doctor. When I went to him, I said, "Doctor, when I saw you, I remembered many things." And he started crying. Swami, even if he touched for a moment someone, like a doctor in the hospital, how many doctors, how many people he saw, and thousands, and they remembered him. Then he didn't changed. He did not want. You could see in his voice and in his eyes that he was really deeply touched, and you could feel that his life was transformed. A small seed went into the heart of the doctor, the right place where to be. And it probably, that seed, if it wasn't transformed in this life, it will be for the next. You see, when Swami would do things, he was a man of so much action. I never saw him without doing something that was important. He was always in interior communion. You could change the text here, action with the communion of God, in communion with God, because he was always in communion with God. There was no moment, even when he was teasing or laughing, or when we were doing something that were normal, something that, drinking a coffee or just chatting, he was special. There was something special underlining, and that would come out. Many of you met him, and you all know that these things are totally true. Just to find him and just connect with your eyes, your day was different. You could remember, if you remember the birthdays we would do here, Swami's birthdays, when we would celebrate, there was his table in the dining room, and he would sit there, and you could see his aura. And I'm sure that nobody could even taste what the food was like, because there was a different food that was coming through. And this was so sacred, a prasad, a sacred prasad that could not have anything like it. We will eat today food, the favorite food of Swami. But before you eat, close your eyes and feel this, Swami, this food is yours. It has your energy. Let me feel your divine presence during this lunch, because he's here. His body has left, but his presence is so much here. I want to tell you another episode of how a person that was so much in tune with his master, because that was his life. He always wanted to be a disciple. He never wanted to be a master. It could be that he was, but that was not the way he wanted to touch our heart. His example and his attunement, his love for master would transform in love for everyone. And we all were special for him. If you would go to him, he would look at you, and 100% of his energy was with you. Not 98, but 100%. And he would transform you. We were in Rome, in the Pantheon, because there were years where we would lounge the books in the Vale Theater that was close to the Pantheon. And he liked very much that area, because he had discovered the right places to drink a good coffee. And while we were walking, we went into a shop that makes books by hand. And Swami started appreciating these books and these notebooks and the papers. And he was looking at this book that was blue, like a Naya Swami, and he got a pen, and this lady was behind him. The sales lady, and she was following Swami, and she was listening. He was not saying anything important, but she was listening at his tone. And at one point, Swami asked something about some kind of paper, and instead of answering to the question, she says, "May I have a blessing from you?" And Swami says, "Yes, sure, I will give you." But before giving, she must have been 35, 40, she said, "You know, I have a tumor. I don't know how long I will live. But when I saw you come in, I knew there was someone special in this store. And then I followed your voice and the way you are talking, the way you touch things with such a kindness and grace and love. And I think your blessings is important for me." And there were many people in the store. So Swami stopped, got a hold of her both her hands, and touched her in the spiritual eye. And there was silence. Nobody would speak, and the aura of Swami had everyone silent, just like when you go into a very saint place, a sanctuary. That store had become this, and when Swami finished, there were all these tears, not only of this woman, but of many other people that were in the store. And at the end, he said, "I will pray for you." The next year, we went to that shop. Let's go see if she is there. And she was not there anymore. So we asked. There was another woman, and we asked if and she said, "No, do not know anything. I don't know anything about her." And Swami said, "It's not important. I know she is in good hands." You see, all of this, it's difficult to say in words who Swami really was. Because the words cannot easily express the greatness of a saint. You can only understand being in silence. You can only understand working inside, inwardly, because our words cannot just in the case that you are a saint, but then you don't. It's good to be in silence. The silence is so important. I remember an important moment I had with Swami was during the closure, because at the end of January the center closes and there's people that go to India, there's people that stay home, or people that go home. And Swami stayed here and to work, and it was snowing, so I was cleaning the path, and because the cook, Swami's cook, had to arrive to the house, so he said, "Come, sit here. I'm writing this book." And so I would sit next to him, and he would write. And though that silence was a divine silence, because when he would write, just like the lecture says, he was in communion with God, and you could perceive this divine presence in that room. That is really his living room. He had a cushion where he would write. He would close his eyes, he would receive and write. I never said anything in those moments. Many times happened. I would just sit there. But inside I was being transformed. It was so much emotion to be there. There were so many undescribable joys. And sometimes he would put his eyes up and would look with a beautiful smile. And he would continue writing because he would get out of his concentration. Can you imagine how blessed we were to have such a great soul with us? Every day I think to him, and I pray. And I pray, let me live the experiences when you were here, when my eyes would see you and my heart would beat. And he does that. He does it with everyone, because we really are his spiritual children, and a father never abandons his children. So when we attune to him, we receive, and we receive much. We receive the presence of all these masters, because he every day brought forward the mission that Master gave him. It is not an easy mission. It is the mission of transforming people, this world, to let us live in harmony with God. And one day, this happens if we get in tune with great souls that have received this task, this divine task. Now, I want to read the last part at the end of the. This is. Giovanni is a disciple that Jesus loved very much. This is the disciple that testimonies these things and has written them, and we know that his testimony is true. There are many other things that Jesus did. If every one of them were written, I think the whole world would not contain the books that would be written. Swami wrote very much in his life. He shared everything that he had received from his guru. But I think that there's so much space in this world of books that have to be written. Even if we are not writers, it doesn't matter. We can write books with our heart. And this is what Swami is hoping, that each one of us becomes a testimonial of his life, with his example, following the teachings of Yogananda and of masters. Because I imagine that many of you are disciples, and the disciple has a responsibility, a big responsibility that cannot be taken lightly, to do whatever is possible to transform others just as we have been transformed. We also have to transform others. And if we don't do this, we have lost time, because life is sacred. Each one of us must live it to the fullest. Everything will fall off, but the only thing that remains is our spiritual part. If we share it with others, we are filling those voids that we have in this planet, because the planet needs spirituality, needs sanctity, needs love. And we are examples. We can do this. And if we get in tune with Swami, with our masters, they will do that through us. And through the window of our life, if our window will be clean, that way we will be pure channels where we can transmit this divine joy to everyone. I hope this will be a beautiful Sunday and a beautiful birthday of Swami in joy and love and divine perfection.